All right, so we're here. I am working today on some stuff that we were working on yesterday, which has to do with the finishing up of our security engineering course. I finally finished up Unit 9, and I'm ready to record that one, I think. Even though we did the meeting last week, I hadn't done all the presentation. This week for Unit 10, I've got most everything already set up. So this is the final security engineering course. I was going to add two more to it. I'll probably add two more the next time we do this. How's it going, Death Wish? We are not working too hard today, just kind of getting some stuff going. I got a few hours before my first college class of the day that I run. So, all right. So then down here we've got week 10 announcements, and then we've got last week's topics, and then we got this week's topics, which are going to be some journaling, and then some proof of skills and how we show those things out in the industry, how we show that we know how to do this stuff. And then we're going to do an overview of each of the weeks. So I'm actually over here going through the topics on the right. And part of one of the things I'm saying here, the goal of this course, right? The goal of this course was never to align with any one security standard or certification, but rather balance the theory versus the application of security in a Linux enterprise environment. So I wanted to give you guys the experience of being an actual Linux systems engineer and actually go and secure these systems and all these multiple ways that we do it. And even though you can't possibly hit all of the different ways in a lab of, you know, how you might end up hardening a system, you could at least get in here and understand that you're going to be following some standard, you're going to be building to some standard or compliance, and then you're going to kind of go from there. So while reviewing back on that, the topics to, while focusing on that goal, our review here is going to help align these topics back to the absolute security minimum of Security Plus by CompTIA. So that's kind of going to be one of the things in the review that I try to help align with, because the topics and the technologies and the ways that we say things are all the same across the security industry. And that standard is mostly held by, you know, organizations like CompTIA and ISC Squared and all these other organizations that I'm not actually involved in any way in CompTIA, but I'm pretty heavily involved in ISC Squared, which is, you know, my CISSP and my CCSP type security certs. But anyway, so the point is, like, and man, I mean, if I could say one thing about it, I kept saying this during the course, but one thing that I would definitely say is the point is never to just drone on and do security to do security. And then the goal is to understand the thing and then understand the balance between productivity and security. Yeah, actually, yeah, I might do those courses. There's a couple of like big holes in this course as far as that goes, from our original, you know, main topics here. But I mean, I think this is still an excellent start for most people. But then there's the ones that I would add for sure, the ones that I would probably add just right off the top of my head, the one that's been bugging me that I don't have is definitely the like backup and disaster recovery plan and business continuity plan and all of those kind of things. I only ever barely touched on risk management, which risk management is a huge part of the security overall game plan, right? But I don't really go into that much in any of this. And then the other one that I never really touched on here, I really just showed you guys how to do defensive things. The one thing that we also never touched on in here was all the things that are actually dangerous out there that are known. So things that, you know, can cause problems and all of that kind of stuff. So and maybe the end of a life cycle of a server as well. I never really went into like how we end something's useful time with an organization. That's mostly that. Let's go down through then. I'm just going to be going through here and kind of carving this up as I go based off of the sessions over here and kind of what we did. So for Unit 1, the thing was build standards and compliance. A lot of the theory was in kind of the theory that we hit on this one was, what is security? maybe I need to put like, maybe we'll put this here like this, and then that's kind of annoying. All right, let's put those little bullet points. What is security? Right, like, so what is security? What is the CIA triad? What is what is authority, and how does that relate to controls? What are controls, and how do they get applied? Right? So these are kind of the things that we did in that week, right? So what is security triad? What is a compliance standard? And then for the practical application, we hardened MariaDB to a STIG standard, right? Hayes, how's it going? FBI Yakuza. I've never even heard of that. So what is, so what's our standards? And then what is the relationship between authority, will, and force? And then this was our discussion here about oh, nice. Yeah, Hayes, I'm super busy too. I got finally access to one of the government systems I've been waiting on for a few months, and now I've been super busy. So, over on YouTube, Shushant said, "Is this a paid course you're preparing?" No, it's free. We've been running it in Discord for the last. We've got two courses. One is a Linux Systems Admin course that's free, and then this Security Engineering course that's also free. Also, I hate when the I hate when my page does that. That's so annoying. It shortens it down and doesn't put it back to where it was. But yeah, no, this is the Prolog Security Engineering course. I've recorded the first 8 of these, and yeah, these are free. They're just down in our Discord. There's a little certificate that goes along with them too for people that finish them. So yeah, if anybody wants that. Unit 9 has not been recorded yet. I haven't finished though. I have everything for it done. Now I'm getting ready for today, which is the last day of Unit 10. Or the start of Unit 10, the last day, the start of the last week of the course. Let's put it that way. And we're reviewing all of the units now. So aligning this stuff that we're doing here with the industry is going to be this initial part that we did. Is going to be, where's that over here? Gotta spend some time with this. Actually, I might have to pull up the original course. Let's go to Unit 9. Here's our security engineering course. Here's the topics from week 1 that we went through, right? And security perception versus reality, right? Everybody thinks that all these activities, right? I'm going to put that back in my theory here. It's not the activities. It's not the activities that the security team is doing to satisfy requirement that adds value. It's the understanding of how and when to best apply the controls as prescribed to not the activity. It's not just doing things that's good. It's doing things that actually accomplish whatever the mission is. It's not understanding how to best apply the protocol, the controls as prescribed. Understanding how the best prescribed to, right? That's where the value is, right there. And mitigating real threats. So let's go ahead and duplicate this slide. Actually, I might just be able to pull some of these slides directly over. Like my control slide. I could probably just copy this slide. Right, oops. That's, I mean, I guess that's gonna be, I don't know. I hate it all. I hate all of it. This whole fucking thing. Really? That's not enough to grab the whole... There we go. Super annoying. Super annoying that we have to... Alright, there's controls. Talk about controls for a little bit. And then... And the point isn't to go over all of the stuff every time again. It's just to kind of talk about the different component pieces. Probably take this picture because I like this picture. Right? So... This topic will be, it's not just about... Nope, don't save anything over there. It's not just about what we do. The person's still going to get in over here if we don't stop them, right? So, I love to hate it. That's funny. Thanks for the follow, Impulse Ace. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We're just we're putting together stuff for this week's course, which is down in, we run them down in the Discord. They're free. This week's one, what ballerina? What the fuck is that? God, man, I can't stand like the ads on Discord enough to make me want to leave Discord, right? But anyways, there's a Bash study group coming up, and that's noon, so it's in about 3 hours here, 2.5 hours. Here's our Linux systems admin course. So we're in Unit 10 this week. We're going to be doing Kubernetes over there this week, heavily digging into Kubernetes stuff. Then we got the Linux security engineering course at 5, and again, that'll show it in your time. So. Writer's Room is tomorrow at 4, but again, it shows it in your time if you try to join it. And then there's a Git study group on Tuesdays, and there's all this kind of stuff for you guys to go do if you're interested in getting involved in some group and getting your Linux skills better. All right, so let's say that that's a good at least start for Unit 1, and then I'll come etch more stuff in. Let's go look at Unit 2. What was our topic for Unit 2? All right, we're going to go look at that. So that was securing the network connection, right? Oh, this one was hardening using common STIG tools, specific standard, but practice for any standard, right? We didn't care what the standard was. The standard itself was irrelevant. We just wanted to understand how to use some tools. Now, I can't say the STIG standard was completely irrelevant because that's still the way that so many people do stuff. So, yeah, Hayes. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why people thought like, hey, we're doing the 4th version of this movie that's exactly the same movie every time, and we're going to call it Ballerina. And I guess people still liked it, but I don't know. I haven't watched any of those since the 2nd one because it's the same thing every time. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm overly cynical about it. I actually really like Keanu Reeves as an actor too. I just can't. I can't just watch those movies that are the same thing over and over again. It's too much for me. I don't have time for that kind of crap. I also didn't like Nobody because it was basically the same thing. Just he didn't admit that he was the badass until like halfway through the first movie, which was super weird. So, anyways, all right. This one's securing the network connection. All right, I'm going to get off my high horse here. Securing the network. Let's go. Actually, let's go look at the first one again real quick. Hold on. I want to make sure on this one that I didn't miss any other of the learning. Yep. We only barely touched on risk management, but let's say controls and then aligning with the industry. We had the control types, we had all that stuff, sure. Um, we had fundamental security concepts that I think were probably just important to have. And I'm going to grab some of these and just take them right from the, as I mentioned, we're aligning this to like the security plus. And since we're doing that, I can grab some of these overview topics. Let's grab this one, duplicate the slide, get rid of that, and then just drop this in. So these are some of the fundamental security concepts that kind of go along with that from the CIS, not CISP, the Security Plus type cert, right? And then we're gonna go get into the network one next. So let's go look at we might even go ahead and duplicate this slide again, get rid of that, and we'll grab some of these as well. So we're not hitting every single topic of this, but these are the ones that kind of align with these different parts that we're talking about, right? So I think I was telling some of the guys earlier, like I plan on this week as kind of like a comprehensive review to maybe take the longest of all the different weeks of things that we have. So, all right. So now, okay. So I think that's a good one for that. Actually, you know what? Maybe I want to grab these. I might grab these all now, and then just stuff them in there for now, and then I think that'll make more sense. So I'm gonna just go down these and stuff these in the different weeks that I think that they belong with. So we've got the first two already. Change management is another one. So let me do the change management one. Okay. Change management belongs in this week. Hold on. Configuration, drift, and remediation. So in Unit 8, we're going to want the aligning with the industry to have this, which is kind of your configuration management stuff. And these are just like common terms and things that go along with some of the security certs. That's kind of my goal and what I'm pulling out right now. Cryptographic stuff is going to come up in the keys and certificate and key management stuff. So, which is going to be in Unit 9. So aligning with the industry here is this one. Right. And then the yeah, there's certain things that I really didn't even get involved in, or I didn't show some of these. So that's those are holes in the game. I think holes in the story. 2.5. We already have 2.5. That's up here. Yep. Where would architecture models go? Probably we didn't go heavily into this, But I guess this would go mostly in... No. This would go mostly in our build section, I guess, the security architecture stuff that's next. So let's go back here. Yeah, we didn't deal heavily with build as far as architecture goes, so I'm going to probably skip that one. This next one, though, which is secure enterprise infrastructure, that's probably going to be heavily... Let's go find enterprise infrastructure. Yeah, it could be in this one. So we're aligning with industry standards from our original course. The Unit 9 is really just a review of things, and we're going back and looking at how industry standards and concepts kind of fall in with this. And that was another thing that's kind of a glaring hole, is the missing of... I didn't go talking directly to protecting data. I did talk about some of these individual components, but I didn't talk about like data classifications in the course ever. That wasn't really ever part of it. So it's over here. That was identity and access management for sure. Okay. We'll say that this one is kind of... Let's see. This next one is going to kind of go under... Could probably say that this one is up here. So duplicate. This one I certainly... I need to have one at the bottom here that is like additional topics. So additional topics to add is probably going to be some of these other ones, which is for sure the data resilience stuff. We never got to dig into this. I didn't do, like, I was going to build a Bacula architecture and show you guys how to back things up, how to do business continuity plans and that kind of stuff. It just we never had time. There's so much. I mean, this is just such a comprehensive big thing. But that's one that we'll add eventually. Topics to add. So the next one is security operations. Yeah, both of those I didn't really get into either. Although I would say we mostly talked about package integrity inventory here under security repos and patching. So we'll say for unit 5, yeah, which is repos and patching, we'll say unit 5 is where we talked about the importance of asset management. You can't have anything without asset management as far as security goes. So that's going to be unit 5. pulling this in. Also, I can't tell, I'm not looking at it right now, how well my little voice thing is working. I guess seems like it's doing okay. It seems like it's better when I'm kind of loud and close to my system. I built it last night, and there's some thresholds that I could kind of change on it. Yeah, it looks like it's okay. Not great, but it's okay. Actual computing resources. Don't necessarily have anything to do with that. That's one that I need to add. I'll add that at the bottom here. Then we'll just be able to say that we pretty much have them all. And the topics to add, I guess, could also just be like topics to hit more actively. All right. We did a fair amount with this, so I'm going to show the common vulnerability stuff. Common vulnerability. And that was also in unit for us back in unit 5, which was updating systems and patch cycles. So duplicate here, boom, here. All right. So if anybody's wondering what we're doing, we've got a Linux security engineering course that we put together, and then I'm using unit 9 at the end of it to kind of align back to the industry standards that are out there. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. This one for sure will be this one's gonna align with units right here, 6 and 7. So we'll go with unit 6 for the first one. Very generic one. This one is very generic network type stuff, so we'll put it up here with our network one. Duplicate. How do we implement? How do we know what protocols we're leaving open? Those kind of things. Identity and access management. Well, we know where that one goes. That one goes with all of our user implementations of number 3. So unit 3 for sure. This is all of all of the stuff that aligns with our identity and access management stuff, right? All right. All right. Then there's, this would be like a security operations thing that I did not heavily go into. Not nearly as much as I probably should have. Duplicate. Or to show. This one for incident response. We didn't do directly incident response, so I definitely need to show that in future ones. I have courses or projects and things we've talked about with incident response, but I think that it would be good to align with this in the future. So maybe this will be a mini thing that we do later, or we add it to this. But this next one, using data to support an investigation, this one aligns very much with our unit 6. Monitoring, parsing logs. Well, probably even more with 7, which is our alerting. So we'll go here. Alright. Boom. And anybody that's just showed up, we're pretty much just hanging out and working on stuff that we're going to do later with the course that we're going to hang out and talk about. So I'm just kind of trying to get this thing to look right. There we go. So more security governance. So we talk about governance from the very beginning, which is who controls things. How do we deal with regulations and the industry and stuff? That one's all the way back in Unit 1. Right, so okay, slide. And we're just mostly aligning our course with terminology and things that people are going to see in the industry as they go looking to get work in these spaces. So that's what we're doing. And risk management, we only barely touched the top of risk management. We did not go deep into it. If we did the course again, I would love to have like a standing thing where throughout we just keep working on, you know, like a risk profile or something, and I show you guys the implementation of NIST. What is that? NIST 800-53 is risk management, right? That sounds right. Security and privacy controls, and then it's the components of it are threat and risk. Yep. And supply chain risk management, risk assessment, all those things. Yep. What do I have now? Anyways. When was it published? Yeah, 2020. All right, that makes sense. Let's go look at it real quick. If you ever need to reference it, this is the same way you would reference it. Security and privacy controls for information system. And then this one heavily deals in heavily risk management and the concept of due diligence and then due care, right? Pretty good read if you're telling me you want to get into security stuff, right? All right. Anyways, yeah. So we'll know about that. We'll understand that. Yeah, we never got into these things. I'll just grab these two together and put them in maybe in the future talks. What types of audits do we run into? Well, we kind of touched that on the overall concept of STIGs. So STIG compliance kind of dealt with this. So I'll say this will be 8. Unit 8. And mainly the reason this is Unit 8 is because one of the things we do is we do our own assessment, and then we assert that we have adhered to whatever standard, and then a third party of whatever type comes in. So we do an internal attestation that we did the things that we needed to for PCI DSS compliance, and then they come in and well, not typically them directly, but a third party approved PCI DSS auditor comes in and does the audit for us to ensure that we're at whatever the required type of things are. And then penetration testing, typically what we call red teaming. Red teams do a lot of other activities as well in an organization, but the red teams are doing offensive things against your own stuff to just kind of rattle the doors against the physical, administrative, and technical controls of your organization, right? Those are kind of things that we run into. We did not do a security awareness. In fact, this is this is heavily what my dissertation's on for my doctorate, but I did not go into this at all for this. So this will be another duplicate the slide, and then it's just this right here. A lot of these security things are not things that we're doing as a Linux security engineer. So that's one of the reasons they didn't get focused on in the course, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, that's really, we really hit all the parts there then. So those are all the additional things that need to be added. But let's go in and add the actual things that are going to be talked about for the course this week. So look at all that extra alignment. So we did network and securing the connection. And how do we secure the network connection? Well, we did a bunch of standards, standard things that came from like STIGs, right? So we had like STIG standards that were being implemented. But then we also did some stuff around just different tooling. We looked at sysctl and how we could tune out kernel parameters. We looked at ETSI-NS switch, and we could determine how and where our system should use either host files or DNS and all these other things. We looked at DNS and the problems with DNS and the things that can happen. And then we looked at some of the benchmarks, again, how we harden the stuff. We looked at TCP dump and ngrep to look at real-time live systems. SS and NSTAT allowed us to see what ports were open or being exposed on our system, right? Like these are all the things that we were doing this week in Unit 2. So let me go, hold on real quick. I'm going to go back one. Actually, I got it all here. So the things that we talked about. So the theory was probably best to be looked at like this. Sysctl and kernel kernel operations for network. And how does the kernel interact? So how did that work, right? That was sysctl. Whoops, sysctl. And then DNS security and how etsy-nsswitch.conf affects our system operation, right? And then in our practical application, what did we do for this week? I'll add some more to the other stuff up there. Theory tools that look at open ports and activity crossing our interfaces. Right, so those were things that we did as theoretical, and then the practical application of this week that we did was to STIG rel 9, STIG rel 9, so our practical applications for this week. Did we, lab 2, did we go look at, we did that in lab 2? All right. Shit, I don't remember doing that in lab 2. I don't remember any of this. I tell you guys all the time that I'm a madman. I don't remember writing any of it. I mean, I remember writing it, but I didn't remember that in week 2 I had you guys looking at the STIG standards. That's really cool. I didn't. That's awesome. Like, so you were digging in. So, review network related STIGs in a automation for remediation of STIGs. Yeah, I didn't realize I even had you guys doing that week. I thought I did that like in week 6 or 7. Geez, much like, or 8 even, much later. I didn't realize that I had you guys doing network related STIGs so early. So that's cool. That's cool. I guess I did better than I thought I did on that one. Let's go look at Unit 3. Well, actually, is there any other theory stuff that I think would be really good to talk about in here? Did I have any good? What was our discussions about? Let's go look at our discussions. There are 401 STIGs RHEL 9. When you filter for sysctl, there are 33, mostly focused on SSH and network. So sysctl is 33, SSH is 39, and network is 58. There are some overlaps between those, but then look at them and think about this. So theory as a huge part of this was protection of the ingress to your systems. Right, that's a huge part of our theory, was protection of ingress. Ingress is anything coming in, right? So there's that. Jeromichi said, when are we going to do another sysadmin course? You know, I haven't looked at it, but we could. So now that the guys, I mean, look, guys, the dudes that run the book stuff, right? I just put all this material together, and then our guys have been turning it into this really awesome book. Those guys are going to be done with the Professional Linux Users Group Linux Admin course probably here in the next few weeks. They're going to have this mostly done, and this has turned out really good. We will probably rerun, so the group will be done, the current, let's call them a cohort that's going through. They'll be done sometime in, I want to say August. Yeah, because we're on week 10 today. And then we have to take a couple breaks. Like next week, we're not going to run it because I'm going to be doing, well, 1, it's my birthday, and 2, it's a big party over here. The party is unrelated to my birthday. We're just doing like a summer kickoff party. I'm not even telling anybody it's my birthday that day. But then, well, I'm telling you guys, I guess, but I'm not telling the rest of the world. And then, so we'll probably start, let's say we'll start it, we'll probably start one again late August, early September. I'm trying to do about 2 a year. So if that works, that's probably what we're going to plan for the next run of our Linux engineering or Linux admin course. Now, you guys have the material, so you can always just do the course and work through it and take your own notes. And I know some guys have been doing a really awesome job of putting it up in their own GitHubs. There's been like tremendously well done projects with this that I think probably add a lot of value to somebody's portfolio, and I mean probably shows that they really spent some time with Linux, you know, at least enough to prove to a company that they could be an administrator. So anyway, so yeah, probably in August, late August, early September. That's probably when we'll start it again. Yeah, actually, I've thought about that. I think it would be really good if we could get some of the guys, like I know some of the guys are trainers and enjoy doing training. I would be fine with them running the older courses. My main stuff that I'm going to be building going forward, I'm for sure doing an Ansible course, and that'll be automation, but it'll be automation with mostly Ansible. And then the other one that I'm going to do is the blue. So we did the blue team of security. We're going to do the red team side of security. So, yeah. But yeah, in case anybody doesn't know, in fact, I used to have it. Let me see if I can put that back across the bottom. My little ticker here. Let's see, is that the right ticker? Nope, wrong ticker. Let's go find the right ticker. Yeah, well, that ticker's not exactly right. I'll fix that real quick. But normally I like to let you guys know that, you know, there is that this stuff's free as far as the course goes. Let me go Notepad. Let me see if I can change this one. Also, some of those commands would still work right now, but they don't actually trigger the things that they might have normally done. All right, so let me go say stream setup, ticker info. Let me see. There we go. That's our goal, right? To get hobbyists into professional Linux work. That's our stated goal of our group. So we want to get you guys into doing this stuff. However we can, however we can do it, however we can get you guys doing that. That's the goal. So that we can sit around like that little Squirtle meme that just like one of us, like every time a new water bottle shows up in your that's a whole meme thing, but let me go find I think that's a pretty good unit 2 right there. So then the unit 2 will have also those additional topics that it ties back to, and then we'll get into unit 3. So let's see, unit 2 talked about all of these different pieces. I'm also like refreshing a lot of my my own self reading these things in this lab that I put together for you guys. This is just a lot of work. I mean, this is a lot of work, but this is hopefully valuable to you guys to see. Like, this is what it looks like when our system works the way it's supposed to, and that kind of stuff. All right, anyways, so let's keep going down, All right, that's all that part of it. Unit 3 was user access and system integration, right? So we set up our own Active Directory and lightweight directory protocol. So unit 3 down here was, oh my God, really? User access and system integration. All right. So the theory here, and then the practical application here. Let's just move this way fucking down here. The theory was trust from a system from a Linux system to a LDAP or other. LDAP is Lightweight Directory Authentication Protocol or other identity and access management. Right? So we can trust and then allow users to come in and pluggable authentication. All right, so we did those things. We talked about did we do sudo in here? I think we did sudo in here as well. Pretty sure there was PAM and there was SSSD. Did I make you guys in the lab do actually sudo? We did access a little bit. User creation. So Etsy login.defs defines user creation in your system. It's kind of important. It works out of the box, but if you need to go configure things or change things. Secret sauce, I didn't do eBPF in this one, unfortunately. I didn't hammer it. There was no In a 10-week, yeah, in a 10-week thing, I did do a fair amount of, if we're being honest, I did a fair amount of monitoring and parsing, but I didn't have time to do eBPF with the guys. Not even like Falco or something, which would just utilize eBPF. It would have been good. Trust me, if there's nobody out here that's going to hammer my own course harder than I will, as far as like the things that I think I should have added. In fact, a big part of this week, what some of you guys just saw me doing was I was pulling in. So we're aligning what we did in the course. This is the week 10 review, and we're aligning what we did each week with like the industry. So like here's unit 1, and these are the things we did, right? These are the things we learned and talked about, and then controls and why I don't want you just doing things brainlessly. I want you to understand that there are actual threats out there, and we do stuff that are compliance standards and stuff to actually mitigate things. So we got to understand what's a technical control, what's a managerial or operation. Managerial and operational controls, people that don't care about your fucking rules don't care about these two types of controls. If I just leave an open Linux box out there on the world, and then when you log in, there's a little message at the top that says, hey, this is Scott's server, make sure you behave yourself. Most people on the internet, and if you guys don't believe me, you should see some of the times that I've left servers open on this stream even. People are like, RM-RF, like, and then they do it 4 more times before they realize they have to get a path in there. But anyways, that's neither here nor there, right? I'm not gonna make fun of script kiddies for being script kiddies. They are what they are. But the managerial and operational controls don't actually protect anything if somebody doesn't respect your authority. Right? Like Cartman. So my point in saying that is then I tie this all back to these are the things that the industry says. These are the things that come from, and we are lining this up here. We even give credit. We always give credit. We are aligning things back to the Security Plus exam, because that is a good baseline naming, standardization, terminology type thing. It is not, I mean, look, I could use CISSP, right? I have a CISSP, I have a CCSP. We could talk deep level security stuff like that and terminology, but I think that a Security Plus is a good base for a lot of people. It's like a good foundation for what you can build all your other stuff you talk about it on. Anyway, so we talked about that, and then we aligned with the industry, talking about things that we could have gotten into or digging deeper and that kind of stuff. And then unit 2 was these topics, and then those, and then we were down in unit 3 right now, pulling out the components here that I had. So what do? We did PAM. We looked at the pluggable authentication module. How does that? So practical application was here. PAM integrated with SSHD, really? SSHD. Stigs. Right? Those were practical things you went and looked at in your viewer. And then we set up Open LDAP for our own system, right? And then we connected a user. So we created right. So I think we used SSSD to connect, if that's right. This was all our setup. And then I had you guys. Yeah, I actually had you guys doing some key stuff back here too. And then let's see, hold on, SSSD to Realm join. All right, so we did those things, and we understood that we could build a user somewhere else and then trust it. That was the most important thing. You did all of these things, all these technical things, were just to do this right here. Trust from a Linux system to an LDAP or other identity and access management tool to implement a user on the system that wasn't natively there. Because having not native, but local, like a local user is like one of the worst things ever. You can't maintain them easily. I guess you could use some automation for it, but that's just a nightmare. Because what if a server's off or something? It's better to get all of your identity from somewhere else. Let the people that focus on identity and access management do that stuff, right? Management hate those guys. Yeah, we try to stay technical. That's why we put a bunch of technical looking commands over here. Uh, I'm just kidding. But this was the build that we did for that week, and then the thing that we pulled out that aligned with the industry was, lightweight directory access protocol (LDAP), open authorization OAuth, security assertion markup language. We don't even hammer this right here, but then we kind of do later. The password concepts of best practice, length, complexity, reuse, expiration, and age, those are all enforced via PAM, our pluggable authentication modules, right? Access controls, do we have mandatory, discretionary, role-based, rule-based, attribute-based? Attribute-based access controls, ABAC, are probably the current standard. Well, they're definitely the current standard for the government, but they're probably like the current standard to be. Time of day restrictions and all these kind of things. And then we talk about multi-factor authentication, how we let users in and that kind of stuff, right? Something something you have, something you are, somewhere you are. So something is a PIN or a password. Something you have is a common access card or like a YubiKey. Something you are is biometrics, retina, iris, right? Retinas change over time. Irises do not, right? That's a thing to understand. If you gain weight, if you become pregnant, the back of your retina changes and that scan could fail. That's actually a thing that has happened in government systems. People, because who else ever scans your retina? And then, a security person will joke around about like, haha, you're probably pregnant. And then that person will find out a few weeks later they are. I don't know if you guys know this, but your retina is the fastest and best indicator of somebody getting pregnant. The back of their retina, the pressure in their eye changing. But you say, well, why don't doctors use that? Well, because the doctor would have to check you weekly, and who's going to go into a doctor weekly to see if they're pregnant, right? Like that's weird, right? That wouldn't probably happen. But if you're getting scanned literally every day to go into a system, and the system stops working one day for you, it can go as fast as 2 weeks. It can be 2 weeks into a pregnancy. Most people don't know until later, for other reasons, right? Which we're not going to get into because this is a tech stream, not a pregnancy stream. All right. Anyway, so there's all that stuff. Unit 4. Let's go into Unit 4, which is not any of these things. What is Unit 4? It was Bastion. Oh, this was so fun. Bastion hosts and air gaps. Also, one other thing I need to start doing too. Let's go back to Unit 2 real quick. I think Unit 1's pretty well hammered out. I think Unit 2's pretty good, but I want to do one thing real quick. I'm going to go here, and you guys can't see it, but I'll go here. Go up one. I'm going to go to Unit 2, and I'm going to open the security engineering for Unit 2 and see if there's anything out of here that I wanted to pull down. Nope. Most of this stuff was done in the lab. Okay. So I don't need any of that stuff. So Unit 2 is good. Let's go do Unit 3 that same way real quick. Unit 3. Boom. Unit 3 here. Overview. I didn't put much into these. God, who is the most fucking low effort person you guys know? Jeez. This guy right here. Gosh, my stuff's terrible. I hit that one finally. All right, here's the bastions. I think the bastions are great because if you guys were here for this is all recorded, by the way, too. In the bastion ones, I started adding like a network boundary example. So down here in Unit 4, bastions and air gaps, right? Aligning with the industry. Boom. This is a common diagram. Common diagram that we use, which is called the network boundary example. This is a template that I sent to one of my buddies, and then we actually use this to deploy. We actually use this and give this as a deliverable to customers right here. This is a common type of diagram. Boom, right there. There you go, common type of diagram. So network boundary examples might be seen. Air gap benefits, bastions. we did all of these things. We jailed users. We built out the Bastion with like kind of the design here. You know, connecting to a server in an air-gapped environment and then jumping over. All right. I don't think we need to go back into that one, but for this, we're going to say bastions and air gaps, and then theory. And then the last part is practical. The theory was jailing, bastions. What other things were there? Let's go look. Bastion, hosts, and air gaps. Actually, Control-Shift-T. We'll bring that back. I'll put it over here. All right. Understand the role of air gap systems. So air gapped. That's fine. That's good. These are the things that we did. What's exfiltration? Does anybody know what exfiltration is? And what is unauthorized? What is exfiltration? Does anybody know? What does it mean to stop exfiltration? Right. Come down here. We did air gap systems. We did jailing, and you guys could look that all up. AI, all that good stuff. Okay, let's see what the actual labs were. So the labs were out in the world. Build a jail. That's fine. Basic services and commands is accurate. And then build a bastion. That's what we did. Build a bastion to allow people to go deeper into a system than what the normal network could take them. Because in the network, wait a minute, where the hell am I? Yeah, I'm in Unit 4, yeah. Because in the network, this is where their network that they can get into ends. They can't get past this network gateway. They're hitting these nodes. These nodes have to allow them to pass through and pull data or do whatever. So data valet, data mover, all kinds of different datum nodes. AIML could be, these are login type nodes in our organization. And then WAF are your web services behind a web application firewall, right? That's what this air gap here represents, right? Which, you know, people have all kinds of ideas on that. And I say, that's awesome, but theory always has to meet. This is maybe one of the most important things I could tell you guys is, the most important thing I think that I could tell you was don't just blindly follow follow standards and stuff. Understand why the standard's being applied so that you can make a good documented reason why you haven't applied certain things if that doesn't work with your system. And then the other one that I could tell you is, the theory has to meet practical application at some point. I had at least 2 people argue with me this class, whatever we want to call it, on, well, it's not really air gapped if it still touches something somewhere. And I'm like, well, fuck, sure. I mean, I guess we could just build stuff in a bubble, right? But the bubble is still able to be gotten into if the right rules are followed, but never over the network. The network is air gapped, and that's what I would have really hoped some people understood, but I don't think I got through to some people with it. There are times when you have to go to Magneto's prison. Right? This is Magneto's prison. If you guys have never seen Magneto's prison, this is it. It's from the very end. It's the end of the very first of the X-Men movies in the early 2000s, right? All glass prison. You know why it's got to be all glass and plastic? Anybody know? What does Magneto do if he gets any metal around him? Oh yeah, that's right. He kills you really badly, right? Because he can manipulate metal, right? In any way he wants. He can even stand on it as it flies around. He can do pretty much whatever he wants. So, anyways, where I'm going with that is there are protocols for which how we get in there, right? How we can get into the system. All right, so that's aligning with the industry. There's that. What else was there for this week? Let's go look. Building Bastion. That okay. I'd say that's good for 5 then 4. So then we go to 5. What was 5? 5 was updating systems and patch cycles. Oh, by the way, I didn't finish my thought on that. So theoretically, you could say, yeah, an air gap system is just completely off of everything. But when we go to practicality, we have to, something has to give, right? For something to work, like, obviously the fastest way to get from point A to point B is a straight line traveling at the speed of light. But we can't do that yet, so we have to do the next best thing, right? So anyways, theory has to meet practical application somewhere. But maybe I can't even spell theory, so don't listen to me. Also, speaking of that kind of stuff, we've got a bounty out right now. If anybody's in the Discord, I've got a little bounty going. If you get a clip that I can use, if you find something that you think is funny, and I don't even have to necessarily think it's funny as long as the community thinks it's funny, and I use it in our August events, I'm gonna have some kind of bounty where I do something like a humble bundle or something. So humble bundles are $20 to $25 now, and they're just a bunch of books. Could you go find all those books on the web? Sure. Is it more convenient and slightly more legal to just go grab them off a humble bundle for $20? Sure. Is it better to have me pay for them for you? Sure. Right. So if any of you guys find good clips that you think is fun, feel free to clip it, and if I use it, I'll do something. But anyways, that's more for people in the Discord that also happen to be watching. But because there's no other way I'd be able to track all of you down if you weren't somewhere where I could find you. All right, updating system and patch cycle. All right, so what were our topics this week? Let's see what we did. Actually, no, I'm going to leave this one open, and I'm just going to keep going here. So what did we do? Theory was package integrity. Trusted package repositories, right? Automated patching, and then so trusted package repositories, also internal repos, right? Where you control the repo, so you control what packages are there and that kind of stuff. And then the practical application for this week. Package integrity, trust package repos, and then the extra packages for enterprise Linux when we can and can't use it. Like, you can always just install those anywhere you want, but are there reasons you might not want to, right? And well, yeah, the reason is that your organization that you're using as a vendor of your software, so your support isn't going to support things that isn't in their support support path or support channel, right? They're not going to do it. All right. It's all recorded. It's all up there. So what do we do for this one? We looked at yeah, so download custom software from Mellanox, right? Now, we didn't really do anything with that lab except go and look at how you could custom download that, sure. And then we came down here and we looked at maybe the Apache STIGs. We looked at how Apache works in the system. And then we built out a repo. So we built a repo locally. We shared a repo over the network. We connected to both, let's just say connected to both local and network repo packages, right? So those are the things you kind of did. And you built these these base OS repo configurations, and then you tested them out, and then you cleaned everything, and you checked if you could install things, and you checked all the things, even though you were just pulling them from a local repo that was a mounted DVD ISO of the Rocky 9 server, right? These were the things that we did in that lab. Then we set up web, HTTP, which is our Apache web server. That's just the fork for Red Hat. And then we went in and we built a couple of directives. These are called directives right here, and an alias. So directives are directory mount, and we allowed it to be connected to, and then location repo, and then we set those values for the local server for like repo base OS and repo app stream, and then we were able to connect through on our own systems via web and install packages from a web repository, which is, by the way, this is very much like what you would do in a lab if you did not have Satellite. Satellite's a pretty expensive tool. You're probably only going to get into Satellite if you're in a enterprise that can afford it. That enterprise is going to be all Red Hat, so they're probably going to be affording that too. So it can get quite expensive. You're probably not going to be running Satellite in a home lab. You can set up all the base components of Satellite in your home lab. They're all open source. So if you wanted them, get a notepad out. It's Foreman, Catello, Pulp. Yeah, Foreman, Catello, Pulp. Those will get you going. I'm trying to think if there's another component to that. Yeah, Foreman, Catello, Pulp, or Satellite. That's K-A-T-E-L-L-O, Catello. Which is like some kind of registration thing. I don't know. I never ran Catello separate. I just know it was a component that I used inside a Satellite, and it all worked. So that's one of the nice things about when you pay a bunch of money like that. It's like buying a BMW or something. You don't expect the air conditioning to go out the second week, and if it did, you'd be pissed, right? Because it's all about quality. Quality is all about managing expectations, right? So then we patch the lab. Run a simulated enterprise patching. So these are the things we did. I need to find something here for goal of this course, and then I need to find. Anybody know I know the quote well, but I just want to see if there's any good visualization of it. But she asks him where she wants to go, right? Or what road she should take. And he goes, well, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? Right? That's the famous quote from Alice in Wonderland. She asks him, what road should I take? And he goes, well, where do you want to go? And she goes, I don't know. And he goes, well, then any road will take you there, right? And the goal of this is to not do that. That's what's called a cottywomple. That's a funny word, right? A cottywomple is when you walk confidently towards a direction of unknown or towards an unknown destination, but you walk confidently there. That's what toddlers do, right? They walk confidently like they know where they're going. And it's not great. It's not a great thing to have. Yeah, so this is the quote. One day Alice came to a fork in the road and saw a Cheshire cat in a tree. Which road do I take? She asked. Where do you want to go? Was his response. I don't know, said Alice. Then said the cat, it doesn't matter. I think he goes on to say, any road will take you there. So, I don't want to use I don't want to use somebody's image of it. I'd rather just quote Lewis Carroll directly, but that's the general idea. Yeah, then it doesn't matter which way you go. Yep. So, I guess I'll go pull that from somewhere. Let's see. See, that's probably a much more exact quote. That other one was not an exact quote. This is probably the exact quote. I actually have Alice in Wonderland here, and I could probably go find. I have one of the red books. You guys ever seen the old Reader's Digest red books? I have these from the 80s. I let family borrow them, though, just the other day. But if you guys have never seen the red books, no, it's none of those. Red book. These. I have these. I have all of these. But I let some of the family borrow them a couple weeks ago, actually, and I'll go down to Tucson and grab them here in a few. But yeah, these books right here, they're kind of thin, but they're pretty good little. Some of them are abridged stories of the thing. Anyways, I don't know. I don't want to go with that. But the point is, I could go read the actual quote out of the book if I wanted to. But I'm pretty sure that's probably pretty close because somebody would have called them on it. If it's not the exact quote, you know. Grab this. So. See what that looks like. See if we can go like that. And then we got to go find an actual image of the Cheshire Cat. Huh. Yeah, that one was always the creepiest to me. Oh, wow. That's definitely not a Cheshire Cat. Somebody just wanted to put the picture of their cat up on Wikipedia and nobody caught it. That's the one that I'm used to seeing from my youth. That's the scary one from the newer Alice in Wonderland. Creepy, much more creepy. All right, we won't worry about that, but we'll leave that as part of the goal of the course. Is to stop that from happening. All right, let's keep going. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5. All right, I think we're up in Unit 6 now. And Unit 6 is, of course, one of our favorites. Are we in Unit 6? Yeah. Monitoring and parsing logs. Theory. Practical. What do we do for theory? This is what we do here, guys. What do we do for theory? Logs and their role in system security. RFCs that govern log structure, and that's RFC 3164 and 5424. Those are kind of the ones that you're going to run into the most, right? Log aggregation. Seam. We did a little bit with seam and parsing of logs, right? And then the practical application of this was when we got into the labs. Yeah. So here's the things that I made you guys look up: types of logs, log structure, log aggregation with different tools that we use. And then in the actual logs, here were the questions about how you do logging and that stuff. I thought there were some really good discussions around that. And we got into lab, and this was it. So sending logs with our syslog, we did that, right? And this is the general idea of how that logging happens. And then we set up, wait, did I do it here or did I do it later? No, we did it later in the TLS one where we sent the logs over TLS and actually secured the logs. And then we forwarded to a centralized location. And then we did message queues with Kafka. So message queues to extend or to extend logging functionality into existing infrastructure. No, that's like hold on. So the practical application was Kafka logs into Loki, right? That was the thing you actually did in the lab. What you were doing was this extension here of maybe some application sending stuff up into Kafka, producers, sending stuff in, the consumers are reading things out of the topic and then sending it up into the Loki infrastructure. So that was what you did there. I didn't make you do the cloud native stuff. That was all for you if you wanted to. And then some of the anti-patterns. That was actually important. I thought that was a good topic, a good thing to read about. Like, because sometimes, like, you read something until it just, makes you go cross-eyed. Hey, how's it going, Rossberger? We're cleaning up. I ran a 10-week course, and today's the last official day of like the 10-week security engineering course. So what I'm doing is I'm running. This is getting out of hand. Really, I'm putting together my PowerPoint that is just like all the stuff, all the things that we did and pulling. This is the pulling it all together at the end. It's like we have 9 threads of different stuff that we learned about in all these different ways, and how do we align it back to like what we're doing. Oh, I know. Rossberger, I have definitely bit off more than I can chew in this. But you see my little guy he raises his hand when I'm talking, and he turns it off when he's not. This is one of my favorite little things I figured out how to do. I don't know if you ever played with that, Ross. I just figured out how to do this yesterday. Look, I'll pull this over. I don't normally do this on stream. In fact, I don't think I've ever done this on stream. But all you got to do is get this mover tool for your OBS, and then you just put a filter right here on your source, right? And then your audio can move open or closed to data sources. So like I have this data source down here, and as I'm talking, he should just be, oops, where is he at? He's off, and now he's up. Now he's off, and he's up. And then that'll turn him, he'll turn off or on. And it's all just filters in here. I was watching somebody do it on YouTube. And then the main thing that was kind of annoying when you're doing it is if you don't have the easing really, really high, that hand will slap up and down too fast. So watch this. He's just up and down and up and down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Right? That's kind of annoying. So I like to have it up at like 95 because then as I'm talking, it kind of stays up and then it drops down. So anyways, that was just a fun thing. I know you're real into you do a lot of stuff with your OBS and a lot of stuff, and I thought that this was kind of a cool little implementation where you just come in here and you build a filter. But before you do it, you have to have a tool. You have to go download a tool from OBS called Mover. So it's the mover tool, but then it's, it's super easy to install it or put it in or whatever. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a fun little thing. And I'm just hanging out right now. The wife went over to the store to grab some, I don't know what she was grabbing, snacks or something. We got a big party next weekend, so yeah, so we're just kind of hanging out. This is the last week of the security engineering course, and then we have a Linux admin course for guys that are wanting to get into Linux administration. That's a 16-week course. That one's already been done, but we're doing week 10 this week, which is a tool called Kubernetes, digging into all that kind of stuff. This is all later, and for you guys that want to know, we've got a Discord. There's all kinds of events in Discord. They're all free, and people sign up and come, and like Bash Study Group, Colchis runs that. He's really good at showing you guys Bash and getting into systems. Yeah, Ross, I know it's a lot of stuff, but can I tell you something, Ross? This is something I tell my students on kind of like a personal note, right? Because I have college students, guys. I've been teaching for 17 years now. Well, in December it'll be 17 years, as well as being an engineer. And like I'll have students, and they'll come to me in like they'll be in like year 3 of like a networking degree, and they'll just be like, stuff like this, and they'll just be like, Scott, I absolutely hate this stuff. And I'm like, well, that's a really expensive lesson to learn. You just spent 3 years in college to find out that you hate what the job is. This is literally all I do all day, guys. This right here, literally all day. So with Ross coming in and saying, oh, my head hurts, Ross doesn't want to do this. Ross is a streamer, and he's an entertainer, and he's great, and I actually love hanging out in Ross's streams. But what I'm saying is Ross found out for free right now that he doesn't want to do this stuff. He doesn't want to look at this all day. Most people don't. Wouldn't you rather learn that for free, hanging out on a stream for 10 minutes, than going to college for 3 years and finding out you hate this stuff? And that's my point. Is like I tell people all the time, come hang out, see if you like this stuff. If it's not for you, go do something else. I tell people all the time, like I've done database work. I do not want to be a database engineer. I look at database engineers the way most engineers look at me. They're like, I can't believe you do that all day. And then I look at my database engineer friends that write SQL commands all day, and I'm like, I couldn't fucking do it. I'd lose my mind. But this is one of these things where like we got to figure out what our thing is we want to do. It's not always about what you're capable of, because I think any of you guys can do this, right? I could show you how to do, these kind of commands and stuff. I can show you all kinds of stuff about how to move around in a system. But not everybody wants to do this, right? Not everybody wants to go and hang out and build servers and that kind of stuff. That's not for everybody, right? So anyway, so that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, Ross Berger hanging out's always good. Ross does some good streaming. If you guys don't, I don't think any of my mods are around, but you guys should follow Ross if you like. If you like Ross style stuff, he's pretty high energy, has a lot of jokes. There's a lot of running jokes in his stream that I think if you don't know him, I probably first popped in one of Ross's streams about probably 3 years ago. I think I got dropped in on a raid from like Running Man or something. And the very first thing that happened was like he shit himself on stream. He just farted everywhere. And I legitimately thought this guy like crapped himself on stream. But it was like this running joke that like when people throw bits, it's a fart sound. Oh, and they're like really terrible wet. Like it's just awful. But, that's like the kind of humor that some people like when they're, teenagers. And I'm in my 40s, but I still think it's hilarious. So it works for me, but probably mostly the guys. But anyway, so I say that as I know my numbers over on YouTube, and my numbers on YouTube is I have a 99.8% male watching ratio. It's 99.8% males, which I think is hilarious. Mostly between the ages of like 20 and 30. So hopefully I'm finding people that want to get into Linux, right? All right. So anyways, where was I at? I was on Unit 6. Right? And we were building this, and we were dealing with monitoring, theory, and parsing logs in a system. And like in my home lab, we have all the logs, right? We watch logs with a tool called Grafana. And here's the people in the last 6 hours that have tried to get into my system and have failed themselves out forever. And we can go look at who 211.48.47.91 is, right? This is all the people that have tried to connect into my system, and then I have logs all the way back forever on people that have tried to get in. Like literally hundreds of thousands of IP addresses have gotten themselves banned out forever trying to get in. Anyway, so all right, where is that? Over here, the theory for this week. By the way, guys, all this course stuff, if you're like, man, he's got all this course stuff online, is it free? Yeah, all this stuff's free. You just go drop in there. Here it is. It's all free. Don't charge you for none of it. And the reason is because I'm trying to, you know, find the person that's eventually going to knock me off my top spot and let me go retire. That's what I always tell the guys, but that's not completely true. But it's kind of true. I can retire if I wanted to. I enjoy working. So engineering is fun, and being a college professor, these students aren't going to yell at themselves, guys. Most of my students wouldn't yell at themselves. They need me to do it for them. So speaking of college students, I have to go get to my college students in about an hour and a half here. I got a college class that I got to run. I run study groups on Sundays or Saturdays for my students. All right, so here's what we were doing for unit, where am I at here? Unit 6, right? And what I want to do is just make sure that there's nothing I'm missing. And where was I at here? This is, I went back to the beginning. So let's go down to unit 6. And let's see where the guys got. So here's the course and the things that we're doing. Yeah, so log aggregation, seam, and parsing of logs. And this would be analyze real world security events, right? These are the things that we kind of did. And then that's log data. And so there's that. Okay, so those are kind of things that we did in the course. Let's go check the lab for. Let's go check 5 real quick because I didn't check 5. Let's see if there's anything fun in 5 that I want to pull out from the when I did the discussions there. And yeah, so our repository stuff, I probably should show these. I think these would be fun. So this is like our repository stuff. I might grab this. I might grab this whole slide. And maybe just these slides, just the picture slides, right? I don't need to do all the other stuff. We've already talked about all that stuff. But let's copy these, right? Shamelessly stealing from ourselves. Let's go back to unit 5 right here. And oops, damn it. Let's see if we can just get. Can we just apply the background to this? I hate when it does that. Hold on, wait. I can I keep the source formatting? There we go, okay. So there we go, there's our repository stuff. And I'm reviewing, so we're just talking through these things. Unit 6, we were on Unit 6, now we're gonna go look at Unit 6's material, which is up here. Oh no, Unit 6, all this. Fit for use, fit for warranty, security auditing, logs. There's these 2 things and the systemd journal. And then we had this. Does everybody remember this? Hold on a second.
Save to 23% by bundling your home and auto with us.
Wait a minute. Wait, Rossberger, are you still here by chance? Oh no! Damn it. Let's see if Rossberger remembers this.
How do you attract a man? What I mean is, suppose you set your heart on somebody. What would you do to get him?
What would you do to get him?
Grab him and take him.
Grab him and take him.
Grab him and take him.
Take him. Like that.
That's how we get logs, guys. We grab them and we take them. That's from Conan the Destroyer, which is the second Conan movie, which is far superior to the first Conan movie. First Conan movie's okay, but that second one I think is much better. All right. So we come down, capturing logs, sending logs off server. We got all these things. And then what do we do with logs once we have them? Well, that's simple. You just join, and then he runs off scared. We parse logs, and then we do that stuff. Okay, so we know that. I might do the standards. I might want these real quick. So let's go grab this and systemd journals, just so we have them. And we're going to go drop that in here. And we're going to paste it this way so it automatically gets the color. Yeah. Good. So those were the things we did for that. Let's go look at Unit 7. Which will be, that doesn't matter. All right, get rid of that, Don't care about that. Unit 6, Unit 7. I think the guys are all caught up on this. All right, monitoring architecture, and then some of these other tools. So our actual work, the thing we were actually calling it was monitoring and alerting. Practical application. By the way, if you guys have any questions, best place to ask them is down in the Discord. We're so close to 4,000 people, right? We have a whole bunch of professionals and aspiring professionals, and I'm just, trying to get more people involved in it. Hold on. And I cannot copy that. Will not let me grab my Discord link no matter what I do here. All right. All right. Well, anyways, on the YouTube side, if you want the Discord link, it's down in the subject or in the description. So where were we at? Monitoring and alerting, right? So monitoring and alerting is monitoring architecture. Pertinent, actionable, alerting, right? And then information flow, the security, right? Trade-off. And then let's say for practical application, it was we got in and we did all of these different things. Another one that I really wanted you guys to know was time series databases, TSDBs, right? Very important to at least understand what those things are and what they're doing. All right, service level, man, they're so, guys, you could spend a whole career. I almost feel like, especially as I was showing a lot of this stuff, as Linux engineers, we touch literally everything in this course. We are doing all of this, but you could have a career in just this right here. You could just go work and build network operation centers. I used to build NOCs for companies. Network operation centers, and just deal in service level objectives, service level agreements, and service level indicators, and you could build your whole career around just that one topic. You really could. There's so much to dig in on any one of these. And that was what I was saying earlier about the courses. In 9 weeks and then a week 10 review, I literally couldn't touch all this stuff if I wanted to. And I made this, even with the stuff that we did, we were pushing 10 hours a week for most guys. Most of the guys that actually worked through the course and did it, they spent 10 hours a week on this at least. And they're gonna tell you when they're done that it was hard as shit, but it was worth it, right? And anyways, that's my thoughts on it. But what do I know? I'm just the guy who wrote everything, and they're the ones who did this awesome organization. This is all them. This is not me. Practical application, fail to ban. Another very important one here was IDS, so intrusion detection, the prevention in systems. Are we just watching, or are we also doing things? So fail to ban to lock out users, monitoring, fail to ban logs, right? So we sent the logs over to Promtail and Loki, and then we actually sending alerts with fail to ban to Discord. So we actually sent stuff, and if you guys wanted to see something cool, right? Even one of the guys last night was building some of this stuff out. So we can go on our sandbox channel where our webhook is set to, and there were fail to ban alerts going in even last night from people. So some of the guys were sending, they've been building these all the last few weeks. And they can go and show a company, hey, I know that this closed in system, this was actually a thing that we talked about here. Alerting is the sending of a log or sending of a message out from a closed system. That's what an alert definition is for me. you've got this closed system that's sitting over there. In fact, I've got NOAA systems, I've got all these different government systems sitting over on my left monitor that I can track, but they will send me an alert if there's something massively wrong with them, right? Well, it's because I'm on call for NOAA right now, for the infrastructure, right? But failed to abandon telemetry data, and then there was this other one I have another lab I want to build for you guys. In fact, it's partially built. I didn't get around to finishing it. So that was Unit 7. Let's go to Unit 8. What is Unit 8? Configuration and drift management. All right. Unit 8 was configuration and drift management. Right? Theory. Practical application. This is what we do here. Theory and practical application. All right. Real quick, guys. I'm going to... where's Ranger Dog at? Hold on. How's Ranger doing? Ranger is conked out downstairs. Let's sit here for a little bit. I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'll come back and I'll work on some stuff some more. Quick break. Let's see. Hourglass. What was the security suite? Nessus or Nexus? I never made us use Nexus or Nessus around here. But typically monitoring, if you're talking monitoring, is Nessus. Nessus is the security suite. It's under Tenable Security. Tenable bought them. I have a Nessus book here from like 2000, from like the year 2000, not like the 2000s. It's from the year 2000. It's Renard Dariuson wrote it, and I think he's still their lead architect over there. Let's go quick break and walk around. Then more security course. Let's do like 15. No, let's do like 12 minutes. 12 minutes is a long time. All right, I'll be right back. You guys take a break, walk around, go find another streamer. No, I'm just kidding. Feel free to hang out here if you want. We're on the last few of this for this week. All right, where are we at here, guys? Oh, I still got 9 minutes. I always think that I'm gonna waste more time on my break than I do. But you guys are still on break. I am going to pull up some other things real quick while we're sitting here. Let's go to, let's look at Unit 7. What do we do in Unit 7? Alert definitions. Let's go look here. Move this down here. We're still on break, guys. We're not officially doing anything. You're still on break. I'm just still working on stuff through my break. Why do we monitor? Why do we care? Why are we monitoring? Why do we monitor? How do we store data? What's alerting? Okay, so that's from the course. So we're not necessarily rehashing the whole course in the review, right? I just want to see if there's anything cool that I can show you guys there. Let's go do Unit 8. I think this is a good because I think that this deals with what we're doing, and then system deployment. So I might do this and this for Unit 8 here. So there's Unit 8 stuff. All right. Wait a minute. Monitoring and alerting. All right, we're in Unit 8 now, which is theory. Yeah, configuration drift. You guys are still on break if you want to take a break. I'm just kind of, I'm still working on stuff on my own here. There's your break in the corner there. I won't change anything that I'm doing. Yep, I think that's all important. Ansible or tool. Let's say monitoring or changing or remediating drift. So when drift occurs, we can either monitor it and just watch it, or we can actually do something dramatic like changing it live on a live system, and that causes all kinds of problems. All right, I'm also going to drink a Monster right now because the wife got me more Monsters. Actually, I have a whole fridge full of them, but she got me more. Oh, it's funny. I just realized my thing is behind my... There you go. There's the hourglass back there. I didn't realize it was behind my penguin that's yelling at you. Robodome, you haven't had Monster Energy drink in years? Well, that's, I probably shouldn't be drinking them if we're being honest, but I still do drink them. Too tart? Yeah, I do the blue ones, so they're a little less sharp. The green ones that have like 320 calories in them, they're like drinking a cake, man. I'm just like, geez, I do the ones that have like 30 calories in the whole can, so at least I can justify if I drink a few of those a day, it's not really changing, you know, that's not what's doing it. It's like one of my my sister-in-law one time, my wife's sister, she said, it's not what I eat on Thanksgiving that's going to make me gain weight. It's the things I'm going to eat the other 364 days of the year, right? Like, at least in her mind. So, but Robodome, I'm glad you're here. Hopefully, this stuff's useful to you. I'm doing the whole review right here. Look, I mean, this is funny. This was about 10 pages when I started this morning, even before I got on stream. But then I started streaming, and we're up to 60 slides, right, of this massive. This is our review for this week. We're going to go over units 1 through 9. We're going to talk about the final project a little bit. But the goal of the course was to do these things. What the fuck is this thing trying to tell me? Oh, well, hopefully I can spell certification right. And then, you know, what the goal of the course was here generically. And then, you know, the goal, and then go into all the units and start to align them back with the industry. The goal of this was to get you guys aligned to do this work in the industry, right? Not just listen to Scott's way of doing things, even though Scott's way of doing things is 20 years in the industry and then 17 years teaching. That right there in itself is not enough for what I think most people would like. I wouldn't follow somebody just because they had been doing this for a while. I would want to align with what the industry's looking for, right? That's me, and that's also what this course is, right? We're aligning it back to the industry stuff. So we're in unit. This was 8, so we did configuration drift. Let's see if there's anything else in the topics for 8. Oh, the practical management for 8. Let's go fix that real quick. What were the practical things that we did? This was change management. And practice. So we went and we looked at all of the things that the STIGs say you need to implement to be STIG compliant. Then we talked about aid, file and tracking of changes. We did all that. And then we did Ansible, fix drift, and organization. Yeah, so there's your Ansible, and then they ask you to write an Ansible playbook that does this other thing, and then one of their dev teams gets a hold of it and just keeps changing things because they figured out this one tool, and you're like, no, the enterprise standard is we need to change it back. So now you got to keep forcing it back to the original stuff. And then there was this digging deeper challenge, which wasn't required, but then it was like these 2 other things. And could you stamp facts on your servers and then do an Ansible CSV report? I didn't make that a requirement, but that was other things, you know. Was the fact stamping and then CSV report for servers. That was an optional one. Nobody had to do that. But those were the things that we kind of did there. All right. Under construction. Okay, so the guys haven't gotten to 9 yet, but maybe they did get to 9 here. Okay. So now we're on TLS, which, guys, by the way, that's very fair because I haven't even recorded 9 yet, so I'm like the worst. But I finally got around to doing 9, so 9 is done now at least. So let me go pull up. We'll pull up the actual docs for 9, and then and we'll pull. I'll pull up the worksheets and the certificates and the page here. So here's Unit 9. What is identity? How do we establish identity cryptographically? What is encryption? When do we encrypt? How do we encrypt? And then encryption for identity, encryption for trust, and then TLS operations, which is really encryption in motion. That's really what TLS operations are. So if we said encryption for identity, encryption for trust, and encryption in motion, that's what TLS is. Then we've got a handshake, and then we got our review. So I think that's good. I'm going to record this one probably tomorrow as well, Robodom. Yeah. So this one hasn't been recorded yet, so I can't, obviously the guys are doing really great work. Like they're putting like, if I had to guess, they're putting like hundreds of hours into making this book pretty good. And the goal of the book is to get you guys doing this stuff and understanding this stuff. So they're really doing the best work around for this kind of stuff. So this week, though, hold on, let me move this out of the way, get this out of the way. Let's move this over and get this out of the way. What this week's supposed to be is this. Table of contents, certificate and key madness. That's what we called this one. Certificate and key madness. That's just what I called it. Theory and practical application. And then the theory was here. the theory were these things. Let me pull up, hold on. Where'd my other unit? Oh, I actually have unit 9 in the background here, so that's kind of funny. Let's go unit 9. Theory is stuff like this. What is how does trust work in authentication? So these are my kind of my thoughts on this. Was identity has established, and then I need to get this where it'll allow me to indent these. It will not properly indent still. Wonder if I did, hold on, let's do this. Let's indent it first. Hold on. And then let's turn back on that. Nope, doesn't work. All right. There's something wrong with this template, but I just don't care that much. What is encryption? How does it protect data? How can encryption prove identity? How does work trust and authentication? What is authentication and authorization? Because authentication and authorization are really the two keys. And then there's this thing. What is an auditing? What are those? What are those things, right? How does trust work in authentication? How can encryption prove identity? And how's trust work? Okay, those are all. I think those are all things that are there. And then one of the last ones was data in motion, which is transport layer security TLS operations. All right, then your practical application for this week. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Your practical application for the week is not the worksheet. Is this. Using TLS for our syslog messages, right? So setting up that. Yeah, RoboDom, isn't that kind of cool? I set that up last night. When I talk, he automatically does that. But when I'm not talking, he doesn't do that. And that's just a filter. I was showing it to Rosberg earlier when he popped in. That's just a filter over the mic. So then I can be this thing that talks or doesn't talk. And what I thought about doing, RoboDom, I think this would be fun. Remember how I was doing the AI stuff and people could send in AI stuff? When their text to speech happens, I could have like a little classroom. Like I could have, you could see the back of the classroom and it would be like somebody raised their hand and asked the question. And then when the AI responds, because we have the AI set up in the lab still, when the AI responds, the LLM for, what the hell one were we using? No, we're not doing DALL-E. We're doing, God, I forget which one it is. But anyways, when that thing responds, it would be the other voice, and then that other voice coming in on another application track for sound would then show the little AI, and the AI was going to be a llama. So it would be a lot like my little penguin here, but it would be a llama instead. And I told the wife I think that would be hilarious. So then you guys could be asking questions, and it would look like your hand was raised and you were talking, but it would be like the back of the class, and you would just see the hand raise. and then when the bot responds, because the bot thinks through things and responds, it would pop up. It would be the llama with its mouth open. I think that would be really funny. So, I mean, I'm probably more easily amused than most people around here, but that would make my day. All right, public and private key. So, um, so SSHing with public and private key pairs, and so generating and verifying SSH key pair, public private. Most people write that like this. We could also have done some GPG, and GPG is a great tool for that, and it's a great tool for encryption and a great tool for testing stuff. I haven't found, in my career, I haven't ever used GPG besides authentication of like keys and signing of things. So since I haven't used it, I didn't include it in the course. Not that I don't think it's very valuable, and some of you may use it extensively in your career. And GPG is a great, if you needed to build a poor man's set of like data encryption at rest, it's absolutely a great tool for it. That being said, it is not the only way. Yeah, Robodom, I thought about making the stream a little more interactive. IOFault. Yeah. It's that's probably the only place I've ever used it, is just for reading the signatures and verifying that the packages are coming from wherever they're coming. Yeah. That's the only place. But I haven't used GPG for like, you can do like streaming encryption of stuff as you're writing it to disk and stuff in directories, and only in certain directories. And I'm just like, that sounds like a lot of stuff to maintain. A lot of the times that stuff is monitored or maintained outside of my purview as a Linux and systems and high performance compute engineer, that kind of stuff. IOFault, you said the 7TV. Somebody told me about that. Or, actually, you know who I heard talking about that? A few years ago, I heard Admiral Baru talking about the 7TV extension. Where is that? Hold on. Let me go. That's, by the way, we're done with that one. So, whoops, let's go. Actually, we need to fix this. So that's that. And then let's go add, if there's any other thing that we need to add in here. We did all that stuff. Did all that. Okay, so that's all good. And then let me go find the... shoot. See if there's a thing. Hold on, let's go. What is this? 7... Oh, it's a Chrome store. Huh. I do love Pepe. I think he's one of the most hilarious things there is. When you guys have heard me, or when you guys write anything in Discord and I'm always taking notes, it's always Pepe. Huh? That's pretty funny. I haven't even thought about. Oh man, I haven't even thought about getting in here. But I have heard of this. I saw Baru talking about it once or twice even. There's Ranger down there. An editor to manage the emotes, yeah. Yeah, let me play with it. Let me look at it and stuff. I got it over here, so I'll definitely look at it. On topics, and then aligning with the industry. So there's other things going on in here. That's the encryption part of things, and then our full review, and then topics that I just didn't get into this time that I probably want to add as their own little course in the future. So I'm just giving them all a nod for things that we didn't get to. But yeah, it looks like our review today is going to be 60 slides at least. Yeah, our review today will be, man, we're going to be going. I am going to be brain dumping. So then the other things I need to do for this week is I need to write up the discussion posts that you guys are going to make. And for unit, there won't be a project this. Sorry, there will be a project that we do for the whole course this week, but there won't be a lab this week. All right. Yep. There's all this stuff. We did it all. We got through it, guys. We're pretty much done with it. We just have a couple last little things to do that I can kind of send off. What did I say? GPG or PGP? Should be GPG key. Yeah, it should be GPG. There's pretty good privacy keys, PGP keys, but those are different. Yeah. GPG is whatever the GNU something. I don't know exactly. I haven't looked at that in a while. Again, it's one of those ones I don't really think I've unpackaged it much, maybe even ever in my career besides just little stuff. So yeah, it should be GPG. What else? Yeah, I got college students in about an hour and a half or so. We are doing all of our normal meetings, guys. So we are, real quick, if you go look, there are all the normal meetings coming up. Those are all free. Bash study group today, about the time I go deal with my students. That's what it is, GNU Privacy Guard. Yep. I should have known that. I haven't used it much. Colchis has actually a really good write-up in his he's got GitHub of all the notes of things that he does, and he keeps a pretty good set of notes. But he also runs our Bash study group, 50 people. I normally see about 25 people down there, so that's a pretty good sized group in a Discord. You guys are welcome to go down there. In fact, you get much over about 40, you start getting real voice issues. So, in fact, if you guys have ever hit 25 in a Discord, at 26 you can no longer do video. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that before, but if you've never been in 25 people in a Discord channel, you know that. Typically, like when we do our Linux sysadmin course, which has more people, and our security engineering course, which we've only been seeing probably about 20 or 30 people the last few weeks, but we have to do those as a stage, because only in a stage can you still do video and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Rodon, I'm great. I love breaking Discord. That's one of my favorite things, or at least pretending to break Discord. Then we got the writers room, and those are the guys that go over the course stuff. So I try to get everything to them on time, so that by the time we get to whatever we're doing in the courses, you guys have things to think about. Get study group. That's coming up June 3rd. Oh man, we're getting close to my birthday. And then I got to point out, guys, coming up on June 7th, which actually is my birthday, June 7th, we will not be having the Linux sysadmin group or the security engineering course. Well, the security engineering course will technically be done at that time, so there's no more of these. But we wouldn't meet for that anyways that day. And the sysadmin course will skip June 7th, just so everybody knows, which is next week. Throwing a big party instead, so we always have the big parties to do. All right. General stuff, people are working on stuff in the server. The bot will always welcome you. The bot is not super kind, so don't bug us, or don't complain about the bot. The bot's mean to everybody. The bot's especially mean to me. If you guys don't know that, he's especially mean to me. And then yeah, I think this is pretty close to being about the best we can do for week 10 stuff. There won't be a lab for week 10, so we can knock that out. And then there will just be the discussions and the general worksheet stuff for week 10. So that'll be good. I'll get that done and sent up to the guys today here in a little bit. All right. So what else do we have? That's pretty much all I wanted to do today. I got that done. But I thought this was going to take me like hours and hours. It only took me about 2 hours to pull all this together. The kind of the final review stuff that I wanted for you guys. So we're going to hit everything today. We're going to talk about how it aligns with the industry, And then our major components here, let's pull up one other thing here. Let's go to Unit 9. Let's pull up the Unit 9 worksheet and go throw that in Unit 10. But then we're going to change it to the Unit 10 worksheet, right? Because that makes sense. Boom, Unit 10 worksheet. And then, boom. Get rid of that, we don't need that right now. Unit 9, we're going to change them over to Unit 10. And now I just got to make his discussion questions. So his discussion questions tend to be pretty short. What did I say over here that I was going to make it? It was going to be journal topics. It's going to be journal topics. And then this one is going to be proof of skills. Huh, that thing says slay. Slay queen. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, Unit 10. And then Unit 10. And thanks for the follows, guys. I haven't been keeping up on follows, but hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Hopefully this stuff is useful. The goal of all this is to get you guys doing this stuff professionally. Definitions for this week will be let's see. What would be the definitions for this week, since it's all review? It's everything. The definition of everything, right? The theory of everything. No lab. Digging deeper. We could probably take this whole. Probably take this stuff out for Unit 10. Because the reflections are going to be up here in the journal topics. All right. So now we just need to clean this up. Security policy stands sheet. I think those things are all still super valid, but still tools not necessary. All right. I'll fill out the Unit 10 worksheet. I'll get the discussion questions up here soon for you guys, people that are going that route, and then we'll keep doing that. So then that'll be, and this is kind of the final touches on the security engineering course. Although I do think I'm going to add, like, we'll probably make this at least a 12-week course, and I'll add a Unit 10 and 11, and then this one will become 12. This review will become 12 with the other ones added in, because I see some big glaring holes, just the things that we didn't get to, right? So, all right. What else? Anything else good? Robodom, you got anything else? How's the job search going? You still putting in resumes? Or did you take a break for a little bit? Got our Root CA stuff. We got our simple communication model. I did intend to tie this in, so maybe I will. Let's go grab this for the course here. Because if I didn't include this, I meant to kind of pull everything back for a little bit and do our, not quite like a theory of everything. Robodom, you're kind of taking a break? Okay, that's fair enough. Everybody deserves a little bit of a break. All right, let's go throw out the beginning here. So, let me do one other thing real quick here. Engineers are engineers regardless of the tools used or the outcomes sought. We apply the rigor of our processes to solve problems and build sound solutions based on best. All right. There we go. I just want to have that, and then that, and then that. That's fine. Make it a little bigger too. Okay. Robodom, you doing some June meetups? Is there? Let's go check scale. I need to make sure that I get something in for scale. Scale 2026 in San Diego. That's the Linux. Pasadena. Oh, it's Pasadena. So that was the last one, right? That was the one that you just did. But I need to see if they're doing. I gotta go read the ones that they've done before. Have they announced the next one yet, Robodom? I have 23 up here yet. No. They don't have it yet. They should still back on this one. So the deadlines will be in November again. All right. So November and December. So we'll see if I've got something to present there. All right. Yeah, Robodom, if you would let me know when it's coming up so I can put in for it this year. I missed it this last year. I was busy over that weekend wrestling, so I didn't make it out there. How's Ranger doing? Ranger is. You still breathing, Ranger? You still alive? Oh man, I can't see him breathing. I hope he's breathing. He's a good dog, guys. He's a pretty good dog. All right. 61 slides for the last one. I wonder if that is actually as long as all the rest of the thing put together. Like if I added up all the slides from all the other, I don't think that's more. I don't think that's more than all the other ones, because the average was longer than 6 for sure. So, all right, we're gonna call that one good for now. Then we'll move that out of the way. I do have to record. I'm not gonna do it right now, but I do have to record the Linux Security Engineering Unit 9. I haven't recorded this one yet. So when I do this one, I won't do it with my silly little penguin, even though I do think my penguin is great over there. I can turn off the filter and turn him off, and that's fine. But the security engineering is going to look like this. 9th class meeting. We've got a big conference that we do in August this will be for our 11th annual. This will be our 11th birthday of a group. So we've been training people for 11 years, 6 of them on Discord. 6 years on Discord. And then we'll talk about what we did last week, which was configure. So this was for Unit 9, so this is now 2 weeks ago. Configuration management, and then site reliability engineer practical advice for configuration management, and how we do configuration management, and then what that looks like, accurate as accurate as possible. This week, which again was last week, key management topics and TLS encryption and operation, and then we'll run down through and talk about identity. How do we establish it? What's encryption? What does it mean to be symmetric or asymmetric? How encryption is used to establish identity, and then how do we use public-private key pairs for authentication, and then TLS operations. And actually, I should say how we use encryption to ensure the part of TLS operations is using encryption to ensure both confidentiality and integrity. So I mentioned that in the TLS operations, but maybe I should have said using encryption to establish identity, and then also using encryption to, however, we do it down here, so it's not a big deal that we call it out in the overview, right? But it's one of the things that you'll know by the end. All right, anyways, so then what is identity? Digital representation of a person, device, or application that allows authorized access to a system, network, or process. We authenticate that they are who they say they are, and then we authorize them to do actions. That's what we do. Authentication, authorization. There's another part of this that I didn't include because it's called the AAA model, and that is the auditing of them. But authentication is we verify who you are, typically nowadays with multiple factors, who you are, what you know, where you are, all of these things. And one of the things I always emphasize with multiple factors of authentication is who you are or what you know. You can't just say have a password and a PIN. Those are two things that you know. That's not multi-factor authentication anymore. It's got to be something you have, like it sends you a text to your phone, and a PIN that you knew. So it's like you put in a password and then it texts you to something you have, which is your phone or an authenticator, and then you go and you look at the authenticator, and then that allows you to get into the system. That's 2 factors of authentication. But just like having a password and a PIN, not 2 factors. Who you are, doing like a retina scan and a fingerprint scan, sounds wonderful. That's actually probably hard to fake, but it's not 2 factors of authentication. It's not a multi-factor authentication at that point. You have to actually do multiple factors of authentication to hit that, right? And then we authorize you to do things. And typically with an API, it's like create, read, update, delete, or what we call CRUD. Sometimes it's SSH connections into a system where you then become that identity, and we prove that you are who you are, and then we authorize that connection and that set of processes to do things as though they were you, right? That's what's actually happening when you're connected and on a shell, right? That's identity. Establish identity with a bunch of things. There's a bunch of different ways that we can do it, right? How do we establish identity cryptographically? Well, we have to have trust in there. So we have a trusted, like maybe a root CA where we all can go trust, and your browsers are set to trust things. And then that signs down certificate authorities and intermediate certificate authorities all the way down to where your systems can then download from the trusted thing a public version of that cert, and then it can go validate that that is who they say they are. That's what this all says over here, right? Then a TLS or whatever starts happening, and TLS does this as well. That's part of the handshake, but then it continues on if we're talking about that, but we'll get to that later. What is encryption? There's symmetric encryption and asymmetric encryption, but encryption builds tunnels. As you go from plain text to ciphertext, it builds tunnels of confidentiality. That's all it does. And you hope that the tunnel of confidentiality is effective in that nobody ever gets the ability to see plain text through a cipher because the ciphers are controlled, right? It's always true. Symmetric encryption, here's the tunnel. This is all cipher in here. Hello, hello. But here you see that because it's symmetric, you can actually use the same key on both sides to decrypt, meaning if I sent something and then somebody happened to use my session or replay something and get a hold of my key, they could decrypt it on this side. That is not possible over here and asymmetric. When I sign something and when I turn something into a message through a public key for somebody on the other side, this cannot go back the other way. This is like a red arrow back. I should have drawn this with a red arrow. This is also still a encrypted tunnel in here. So asymmetric uses a public key and a private key. They're separate keys in between the ciphering and the deciphering, right? Then we do some encryption stuff. Again, we're not really talking about this now because I'm not recording this right now. But, well, I'm recording the session, but I'm saying this is not the Unit 9 talk. We go through this stuff, we build some keys, do all that kind of stuff. And then we can trust by having a certificate authority where we can download a private key only to the server that's supposed to be trusted. And then the other server initiates to that CA and gets the public key, and then they can use that to send it over there and initiate communication, which trust is tested. So that's the same thing. Is that the same thing I have up here? Hold on. Yeah, this is the same thing up here. Proves identity right there. So I do that twice. All right. And then what is TLS doing? There's a third component of TLS. TLS does three things, but the last part is just the breakdown at the end. So TLS starts with a handshake using X509 certificates. There's authentication, negotiation, and key exchange. And then there's secure data transfer with fragmentation if we need to, which we always need to. Compression if we need to. There's the message authentication code, or the MAC, which is a hash function that ensures that the data is unchanged. And you can't, well, you also already couldn't read it. And then it's also authenticated on the far side as well. And then encryption is going to encrypt all of those things as it sends it. And then transmission is what it's doing this whole time over TCP. So that's how it securely sends our data, right? And then there's our handshake. This is the old 1.2, and now this is the 1.3 more efficient initialization of handshakes, right? Then we calculate our symmetric keys after these steps. And then there's a little bit of a review, and then there's questions, and that's that. So that's going to be Unit 9, and then I'll go into all the labs and stuff that you guys have for Unit 9 and stuff. So I think we have a pretty good little setup of that. I really just have to finish up these journal topics for Unit 10 and the proof of skills for Unit 10 for how we're going to show this to an employer. And that's it. I think that's all we really need as far as this stuff goes. So yeah, Robe Dome, I think it's a good start. Come on guys, I'll be right back. Gotta floss this tooth I've got that gets stuff stuck in it. Back. Sorry about that. It's one stupid tooth that has a little gap that I have to like floss every time I eat anything. Yeah, Robe Dom, I might. I mean, if I was going to do a talk at scale, I have a whole bunch of presentations. I have a whole bunch of these. But if we just wanted like Linux ones, right? I could not tone down, but I could lean down my Linux systems admin one. People might like that. Well, let me save this one and get this one out of here. We don't need week 8 anymore anyways. But this one I would probably darken up and then use one of these, which is like, what does it mean? This is a good one too, I think, for like, what does it mean to be a Linux admin? Like, what do we do as a Linux admin? How does troubleshooting theory work, and how do we do, all that stuff? This is a good one, I think. In fact, I've worked this into one of the courses, the Linux sysadmin course. But you gotta remember too, like when you only got an hour to present something, guys, you gotta understand, like if you're ever hanging out, if you ever like present to a bunch of people in like a technical and academic setting, there is a point where people's eyes glaze over, and it's just too much information, right? Like, and I tell you guys sometimes, like, I brain dump on people. I know I brain dump on people. My college students have to listen to me. You guys can leave whenever you want, right? But I know when I'm like in brain dump mode that it's way more information than the average human can handle. I know that. But when I'm doing if I'm doing a presentation to somebody and I only have an hour, I can't brain dump on them. I have to go very precisely through what I have only an hour to talk about. And it's funny because, like, I know a lot of people hate public speaking, and you're like, oh God, I never want to talk in front of people. I'm going to tell you right now, it is harder to talk, and nobody's going to believe me, but I'm going to tell you, if you're a public speaker, it is harder to talk for 5 minutes than an hour. You say, really? Yeah, dude. If you told me I had 5 minutes to talk on any topic, I would need weeks to prepare. Weeks. And you say, no way. Yes. If you wanted me to go talk for an hour anywhere in the world, I would go do it right now. I don't even need to prep. And I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm just saying, because I can brain dump anything for an hour. But if I'm trying to be like succinct about it, then it's that. So there's this old saying. It's typically ascribed to Mark Twain, but it's probably somewhere before Mark Twain. And he said, "I'm writing you this long letter because I haven't the time to write you a short one." And it's this idea that, like, if you give me 8 hours to talk about something, I can just do it. And you might not believe that, but I've done that before to show people, especially around TCP and the OSI model and stuff, which I've been teaching forever. So yeah, Robdom, like, if somebody was like, get me in the industry in an hour, I'd be like, I can't do it, man. I could show you all kinds of things, but I would basically just it would be like me showing you the reference page of something, and then you would have to go spend all that time like unpacking it and reading it yourself. Yeah, so I have to see what the other people are presenting on Robodom, and see what other things might, I don't know, maybe be interesting to people. So, I don't know. So, the other thing I have to do, which I've been kind of putting off a little bit, is this last little part over here of this. This is something I need to work on. Is the last little part of... So these are our book updates. And I have 2 more sections for sure to finish, which is the fail to ban with metric alerting, which is one of the labs we just went over, although we only talked about it for a few seconds. But I need to turn that into like a book standard, a book setup, and then I need to also do one of these other ones at the bottom. So we could start this. Give me a second here, and then we'll start this up. So there's that one, and then there's also this one at the bottom, which is here. And I guess we could start up here with the fail to ban metric alerting, and go see how this one works out. All right. If we were going to do these labs right now, we would come over here, we'd pop this over here, we would move this over like this, and we could start the labs. Again, Killer Coda labs are all free, guys, if you don't know that. They're great free little resources. And let's go over in Killer Coda, and we'll go check them out. Yeah, Robodom, I don't think anybody's done the labs command in a long time. Let's go look at the Linux labs over here. And this one will be 110, failed to ban with metric alerting. So that'll be... Where do I have that? I think it's down right here. Arsyslog, UFW. Failed to ban with alerting. Okay. So we did fail to ban with monitoring earlier, and that was up here. And then failed to ban with alerting will be down here. So we'll make it pretty similar to this. Given Linux system, protect your system with fail to ban, and then alert out to a Discord when the threshold is crossed. So we're going to alert from our closed lab system out to Discord. You could alert to all kinds of other places. I'm just going straight out to Discord on this one. So we'll do this here in a second. I'm kind of just sitting here gathering my thoughts for a minute. I do only have about an hour until I got to get to my college students, so I'm wondering if I'm actually going to get this all done. I won't get both of them done. I could probably get one of them done. But then I'm also feeling lazy too, so this may be something that we hold off for later. We're going to do all the meetings later. We're going to do the normal talking through everything and, review everything. If anybody wants to get involved, even though we're nearing the end of the courses, we do run them every few months and they're free. But you can find them all up in the events on Discord. So we got a bash study group here in about an hour. Then we got the Linux admin course in a few hours. That's the one that we were not working on today. The security engineering course, we're doing unit 10 today, so we're going to finish that up. And then we're going to do the writer's room tomorrow, where the guys actually pull a lot of that stuff together for me. And then there's a Git study group where guys are working through Git and understanding the branching process and the branching methodology and those kind of things better. Then the Linux admin course study group for people that want to study a little bit on this space, they can do that. There's a security engineering project intensive, so working on the project. We'll probably also work on the project. I'm not going to have time tonight to do it because me and the wife are watching a movie later, but I'm going to be working on my project as well. So I'm doing the project, right? I'm doing the project that I have you guys doing for the course. So there's that. And then there's a security engineering study group. And by the way, if you say, what's the project for the course? It looks like this right here. Hold on. Where'd it go? So you come here, you look at the table of contents over here, you jump down to our final project, and here's the final project. We've picked up a new client, and they're requesting we help them adhere to the HIPAA compliance standard. Here's a good outline for the HIPAA compliance standard. If you're in the EU, you can use GDPR. I chose, somebody asked if they could do that, and I said, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that. And then what are we doing? We're building out the documentation for HIPAA compliance. How are we implementing risk analysis and management in our system? What are our safeguards? So administrative, physical, and technical controls that we're applying from our STIGs. How do we form business associate agreements? That's probably just going to be grabbing a template from the internet and saying we would have them sign this. What are our documentation practices? Do we have policies and procedures, and what do those look like? And how often do we update and review those, right? And then prepare to present. You can use Overleaf if you want. By the way, guys, Overleaf is open source, so you can use Overleaf and you can send your, it's latex, right? You can send your latex in there. You don't have to use your own, like you don't have to use their stuff online here. You can download it and run it locally, and then you can send your stuff up to it and it will publish. There's API management here where you can send stuff in and just generate your stuff over and over again if you wanted. Let's see if we have help. No, templates, features, benefits. Where's this at? Let's go to their Overleaf. If you go to their GitHub, get all the good stuff. Web-based collaborative. Look, open source, AGPL. AGPL, for whatever else it means, and I'm not going to give you legal advice on it, but AGPL means that the things that you generate from this are yours, right? The things that you generate from this are your own stuff. Almost all artistic GPL stuff comes from AGPL. And it's like GIMP. Like if you generate something in GIMP, your generated image is under no compulsion to be still under AGPL. It can be your own copyrighted image. You can take your image and do whatever you want with it, right? So anyways, that's AGPL gives you that, and you guys can go read about that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you advice on that. I'm just telling you that that's what that generally means, right? You can download, let's see if we can go look at this. So You download it. You can run it on Docker. So there's a community edition of Overleaf. Oh, that just sends you back to the default website. That's funny. You can run your own local version. And then let's go look at the toolkit for it. There's Ranger. Oh, Ranger's moved beds. Look at him. Look at that Ranger dog. All right. We're skipping Ranger. We're not messing with Ranger right now. I'll leave that open. Leave that. Hold on. I want to show you guys if. Where's the toolkit at? Is this the toolkit? Developer wiki. Ah, here. This is probably better. Go get on the developer wiki. Ah, here's a quick start guide. Hopefully it's in a readable. Nope, it's not. Licensing. We don't want to convert that. We want to get it working. TLS if you want. Good. Consulting with Docker. Setting it up. Nginx under the hood. That's good to know. That's gonna help guide your troubleshooting. I want to see managing Overleaf. Here we go. Do we have? It's all fine. What does this look like? That's a quick start guide. Okay. I don't really want any of this, but let's see. These are all the things that you would be passing into Docker if you needed to. All right. It's wonderfully complex for no reason. I'm sure those are all exactly needed, but I'm just saying it seems like they don't want to use common documentation. Pretty sure I had the API for this up a while back. I don't know exactly where it is. But I was looking at the API, and you should just be able to send in like your latex and it'll generate the final. CFG said all of your devices got owned. What would you do to recommend? I would tell you to, well, hopefully you got a physical version of your build books if you're talking in an enterprise, and then you're gonna scrub it. Well, you're probably gonna have to hand things over to security first. Security should probably have their versions of whatever you're, I'm sure you got procedures and stuff for how you pull all that. Give it over to security, and then for me, it's all about getting the system back working. And as soon as I get the go ahead, I build the thing from scratch. And building from scratch is always easier if you have build books. So I would start with whatever my cluster manager is in my environment. I would build that up. I would, depending on what my network team is, if the network team is me, I would rewipe and re-image all of my network devices first, bring them up, start with one Linux box, build it up with like Werewolf or whatever my cluster manager is, XCAT, HPCM, whatever, and then I would start building up my other boxes from that. Personal home devices, well, if you have backup off-site, you've got a exposed like separate backup, then that's good because I would wipe everything from scratch. I would start everything from scratch. So I would build everything back from factory restarts. Yeah, that's still what I'd do. I would wipe it all, find out where the source of the compromise is, make sure you patch up to the newest stuff, and one thing that most people don't do well is reset all their any password. If a password is ever compromised, guys, you can never use it again. Like if you have a password that's ever been compromised, I have passwords that were compromised by like armorgames.com back in like 2009. I can never use those passwords again. Those passwords are always going to be sold and used as part of bundles forever, because to go through a dictionary of known like 24 billion known passwords, to go through that against a note, like if somebody's grabbed a hash of something, to go through that is like seconds. The companies are always going to do that. Yeah. I would reset my routers. I would reset the firmware on my routers if I was worried about that. But almost all the time when people tell me they're compromised, it's almost always just an account somewhere that's been compromised. Like I always hear people, all the time people are telling me, "Oh, I got hacked." You didn't get hacked. You put your password in the wrong place. And probably not even you, probably just somebody you know, it sounds like. Yeah, so something happened. Yeah. And but my point is, I would say as much as you can go down to ground zero and scrub it all out. I have a talk that I do on ransomware and what we do with ransomware. It's mostly about how we mitigate ransomware, so it's not as much about this. Yeah, Robodon, if your password's ever been compromised or shown to anybody, it's useless, right? Forever. Even if you gave it to your grandma one time, it's forever useless. You shouldn't use it ever again. It'll always be tried from then on, always. In fact, you can go test like passwords. Azure has a service where if you put a password in, it'll tell you, nope, I found that somewhere on the dark web. Can't use it, even if it had nothing to do with you, because you just it's. By the way, that's actually funny because that's a zero-sum game, right? Like we're eventually going to run out of all the known passwords, but compromised passwords, yep, can't ever use them again, even if it was compromised for somebody else's account. Yeah, if you do anything with Azure, you'll see that they're always constantly like, hey, that password has shown up somewhere before. Can't use it. Yep. Especially if you have a password under 8 characters. Those are all, that's why the government pushes for 14 plus. Yeah, we'll see if I mean, in some ways, there's no guarantee anybody won't get in ever, anyways. I would tell you the most important thing, is definitely getting them out of the system now. And then any systems that you're connecting to, like if you're doing Facebooks and social medias and stuff, is 100%. 100% you got to go in and change all those passwords. Super sophisticated. Yeah. If they're redirecting your calls, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. All right. Should have started with combined biometrics. Passwords weren't the way. Well, actually, so you guys know too, biometrics are a zero-sum game too. We're eventually going to be able to, I mean, there's already things now about collecting people's faces for being able to open stuff, collecting people's fingerprints for opening stuff. And I'm not like talking government conspiracy. I'm talking like in general. There's stuff out there gathering databases of that for people on compromised systems just to one day be able to test 4 or 7 billion, however many faces we have on planet Earth, against a thing to try to crack it. Yeah. Yeah, CFG, that sounds like a problem. It's always the same too? Yeah, that's a problem. If it were me, I might almost just factory reset a phone and then try to see about my calls from there, or call from somewhere else and just have the ability to prove that it's you, right? Or alternatively, go right back into wherever you got your phone, right? Because they're going to be able to prove it's you because they're going to be able to take your card, and you'll be like, well, you guys can fix this or I can stop paying you. That's always an option, right? Although it does suck to be without a cell phone. I don't think I've been without a cell phone since the year 2000, so yeah, I got my first cell phone when I first got out of basic training in the Army. So getting off of pagers and then going right into cell phones was interesting. People could call me anytime. All right. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff going on in the Discord, guys. You guys are all welcome to hang out down there. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff going on. People were studying earlier. We'll have a lot of study groups going on later today. All right. Guys, we'll review all these and check all these again later, probably Sunday morning. But the two things for sure that I'm going to do on Sunday are going to be, we're going to record Unit 9. I'm going to get that one out of the way. And then we'll stop. We'll record Unit 10, get the course finished, so that the guys, I'll try to get those done before the guys have their meeting, so then that's all done. And then the other things we'll do is labs, because people love doing labs on Sundays. Sundays are for labs. We do a lot of work on Sundays. We get a lot of stuff done. You guys get a lot of experience getting into Linux and messing with stuff. Maybe we'll even build a few labs. I have a few extra labs I'd like to build and get them into this next publication of the book. And then for anybody that's wondering about this, I have a book up on LeanPub, and it's basically just all of our Killer Coda labs, but then I have additional reflection questions, almost like a little journal, so that as you're doing them, you can go do writing that stuff up and looking that stuff up. And could you find literally everything in there in the Discord? Sure. But if you want it all in one place, it's over on LeanPub. So that's a thing that you guys have the option of kind of messing with if you want to do that. And I'm looking for a big publication. I'm going to do a big push of it because I haven't published it in a long time. It's considered done right now, but I have so much extra content that I'm just going to add it in there and just keep making the lab book bigger because I think that's amusing. So, all right, let's go find somebody to raid. We got to have something fun going on. Let's go find somebody to raid. I think, who's on right now? Who am I following that's on? I think we're going to go raid over to... Oh, he never came on. All right. We're going to go raid over to Sid Heresy. If you guys don't know him, this stuff's pretty good. Our raid message is always do all the Linux, so I appreciate it for you guys that are hanging out if you want to put that on there. But otherwise, I will see some of you guys later on tonight down in the Discord. Others of you I will see, I don't know, throughout the week whenever we do more Linux. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.